this is what I've been doing pretty much for the last 25 years, maybe longer, in my dog training. And I've observed the change in my dog. And what we call this is taking balance breaks within your training. You want to train maybe for 10 or 15 seconds and then break it off and do a balance break. I'm going to tell you now what a balance break looks like, what the rules are when you're using a balance break, and why it's so important to do them. So what is a balance break? It's a break in the action for your dog. For me, often it's a retrieve. I'll use it as a reinforcement for reinforcing something the dog's doing, and then I might throw a toy. She brings it back and we have a nice game of tug. It could be, if your dog doesn't like food or toys, it could be hand targets and you run away. It's something that changes the dog's physiology. It increases the dog's heart rate. It gets them more excited. So that's what a balance break is. And this is why it's so amazing. First of all, it decreases the intensity of your focus as a trainer, and it decreases the intensity of your dog's focus so that it's like a release, right? It shifts the dog from their thinking part of their brain to more of their instinctive part of their brain, where they're not having to make decisions or they're just all out having fun. It's like a release of pressure for the dog. So it's like on stage where everyone's looking at you and they're making evaluations. Okay, everyone might just be you, but off stage is something completely different. So when I walk out on stage, now I love it so that there isn't pressure, but at first there is pressure about, all these people that I'm speaking to. And so for people who are a little worried about speaking in front of people, there is a lot of pressure. And when you get off stage, it's the release of pressure. A balance break is your off stage release of pressure for the dog. And honestly, if you're doing your job right as a dog trainer, you should be all in focused on the movement, the nuances of what's going on with your dog when they're training. And you can't hold that focus for more than a minute or two at the most. So for me, I like to do it and count it by the seconds so I can release it and then get back into the zone and get back into that training. So another reason why balance breaks are just so important is if you are working on a behavior, like maybe it involves a bed or a prop of some sort, when you do a balance break and you throw the reward, it gives you a little space of transition so that you can move around training props and the dog doesn't notice, because the key to really good dog training is to keep everything flowing so that the dog doesn't have any downtime where they're navel gazing going, were we training, or what are you doing over there with those beds and the sticks and everything? So when you're using a balance break to transition, you can just maneuver something that you had up on a shelf. Okay, I'm going to train with this piece of equipment next, and boom, your dog, it comes right back and you play a game of tug, or you can tug while you're moving a bed across the room or opening a crate door. Okay, so it gives you that little moment in time where you can connect your spaces in the training, but there isn't that downtime for the dog. It allows you to evaluate how much your dog loves what you were just doing. So for example, if I was doing hot zone and I was reinforcing my puppy for being in their bed, and then I did a balance break and I, maybe threw their toy and they brought it back and we played, and I took the toy out of their mouth, what they did next would tell me how good a job I did with my last training session. If they jumped right back in their bed, that would tell me, wow, I'm doing a good job, stay on the right track. If they started sniffing around and wandering, it would tell me, well, I didn't do as good a job as I thought I did, because the value hasn't transferred from the rewards into this case, the dog bed or whatever it is that I was training. Okay. Number 5, and this is a biggie for our balance breaks. It's an injection of joy. For you, the handler, like a lot of the times, it's just I laugh at my dog. We have fun together. And then you go from balance break to training, and back into balance break and back into training. So there's this great flow. And what ends up happening is you're creating more and more focus for your dog, because there isn't downtime in the training, because training ends up being a joy for the dog, that it evolves as every training session you do is building your relationship better and better and better, so that you end up with a dog that can't be distracted because they just love what they're doing with you. However, there's going to be a however. There are rules, because a balance break is reinforcement. It's saying to your dog, I love what you're doing right now. Let's take a little break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to do more of what you were just doing right now. So there needs to be guidelines that you follow, and I'm going to share them with you right now. Okay, so the rules for your balance break. Number one, recognize it's a reinforcement. So here's what I see so many people do. They're training their dog and the dog gets more, the dog's going along and they're doing really good work. They're quick, they're engaged, they're having fun, and you let that session go a little too long, and then the dog's attention starts waning, their focus for work starts, they've just, the pressure's been too much, you didn't give them a break. And when I say pressure, I don't mean that you're hurting them, I just mean that intense gaze, the intensity and the focus that you're putting on them. And so then they start getting sloppy or getting distracted, and that's when people take a balance break. And they go, oh yeah, we probably went too long. Oh, here you go. Now, you might have to do that once in a while, but if you do, give yourself a little smack in the back of the head to remind you that's not good dog training. Once in a while, it's not going to kill anything, but ideally, it's not going to happen again. So you're going to go to you're going to watch this on video because you're videoing your training session, and you're going to go, yeah, that was an ill-advised balance break right there. So balance break when things are going well. It's going to be hard. It's going to seem counterintuitive. Things are going fantastic. I need to stop. How does that make sense, Susan? Trust me on it. It makes sense. All right. So take a balance break when your dog is doing great. You might want to count reinforcements or time between balance breaks. So it might be, I'm going to give 2 reinforcements and then I'm going to have a balance break, or I'm going to give 3 reinforcements, or whatever it is. Or you might say, I'm going to do a balance break after 15 seconds, after 30 seconds. Really, you shouldn't be going longer than a minute, depending on what you're working on. But if you're working with a new dog, a new puppy, holy smokes, guys, those balance breaks, they should be happening more often than the training, really, because it's all about building relationship. And if you've got a new dog, balance breaks are the way it is. So it might be like, for me, 10 or 15 seconds of training, and then some intense an intense balance break that, if it's a new puppy, it would just be like a little tug session, but that tug session might last longer than the training session. Then we'll go back to training. And then I gradually might build that out to 30 or 40 seconds with the puppy, but that's a really good ratio for new dogs, new rescue dogs, or new puppies. Number 3 rule, you have to be sincere. You really, truly have to be enjoying what you're doing. You're saying to your dog, we're doing this, we're having fun, we're in this together, this is so much fun. You can't be looking at the clock and going, oh, I got so much to do. Oh, I'm just making a mess of this. So you've got to be sincere. Number 4, be intentional about this. Plan out what your balance breaks will be. So I have a couple of toys that I'll use. I might use a smaller toy to retrieve. I might use a different toy to tug. I might even use hand targets and run away, or just chase me games as my balance break. But I've got those planned before my session begins. So there you have it. Why you should be using balance breaks, what the rules are, and how it's going to absolutely exponentially change your dog training.